Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life TV show. Hi, I'm Dr. Davia Shepherd. I host a women's group called Ladies Power Lunch. And basically, it's just a wonderful place for women in business and some amazing men where we get together and we support each other as we traverse this whole idea of growing a business or being a woman in corporate life or just all the challenges that we can face as we go through our businesses. What my theory supposes is that if we all link arms together, if we all support each other, then everybody grows. Everybody's heard about how a rising tide lifts all boats. I found that it's actually true. And so my encouragement to all of you is come on over, join us in the Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group. We're having conversations about these sorts of things every single day where you can lend your support and you can also be supported. Just go to growsmarternotharder.com/Facebook and come be a part of our amazing community. Okay, on with the show. I know these are generally evergreen and you can watch them at any time, but I want to take a moment to say Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for supporting us all through last year as we started on the Win-Win Women Network. And I look forward to your amazing support as we go through 2023. My special guest today is Shannon Daniels. For those of you who are members of our Ladies Power Lunch community, you probably know Shannon because she is a tech entrepreneur who founded Encaptive, which is the hub for Ladies Power Lunch off of social media. So we have our own little area where people can come and they can log in as members, they can post their information about themselves, they can watch previous episodes of our, networking activities, they can find each other, they can actually hop on each other's calendars, they can connect with each other. So it's a wonderful place. And the founder of Encaptive is Shannon. But Shannon is so much more than just a tech entrepreneur. She's an amazing human. She's somebody who is always considering how can she be more supportive of us and of our communities. She is a communications lecturer. She's a best-selling author. She has a new book out called Water Yourself. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about leadership and self-care, how those two fit together to give us the opportunity to live our best lives. I feel like it's a perfect thing to talk about as we go into 2023. So Shannon, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Also want to say a hi and welcome to everybody who's joining us live. So hi, Shannon, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm doing great. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me on today. It's fantastic to be here with you as always.
It's always good to have you on the show. We're so glad that you could come back. And I thought it's a perfect time to talk to you because you wrote a whole book about us living the life of our dreams and being healthier and also setting goals. And it's that time of year when people start thinking about goal setting, people start thinking about being healthier, people start wanting to live their best life. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity to get you back on the show to have a little conversation about that. But for people who don't know you, don't know what rock they've been hiding under, welcome to the real world. For people who don't know you yet, and they will learn to love you as they get to know you, can you share with everybody who you are and just tell us a little bit about the amazing things that you are up to in this wonderful world?
Yeah, thank you for that. You told everybody a little bit about me as a tech entrepreneur and the founder of Incaptive, which is an audience engagement and conversion platform for virtual, hybrid, and in-person experiences. So that could be events, it could be a content hub, it could be a community hub, like the way you're using it. It's a way to connect people and bring people together. And at my core, that's who I am. I'm a communication nerd. I studied interpersonal communication, and really that's the study of one-to-one and small group communications and how we really connect together as humans and communicate with one another, and how that builds our own personal view of ourselves as well as our view of the world and how we interact with it. So first and foremost, that's who I am: communication nerd, connector, and just I love helping people. I'm a very purpose driven person, and so whether it's in Captive, or I also do, so I still do some communication, public speaking, and confidence coaching, one-on-one and in groups. I just love helping people at the end of the day, and helping people achieve their goals and be successful. And those goals can be big or they can be small. And so that's really who I am at my core. And as you mentioned, I'm an author. I actually wrote Water Yourself 8 years ago, about to do a new release of the book. And it's really all about self-care. And when I started writing the book, I was still in my corporate life. And in my corporate life, I was sales and marketing executive, fully recovered now. Thank you very much. And I had started writing this book. And as I was writing this book, I was struggling to finish it. And I could not figure out why. And I realized it was because I was not taking my own advice. I was not taking the advice to stop, to make time for myself, to invest in my community, right? To focus on my goals and dreams. I was just work, 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 work all the time. It was like, get up, go to work, go home, go to bed kind of thing. And I started to fall to the wayside, and I became unhealthy, and I had all these issues. So I decided to follow my own advice. I quit my job and I wrote the book, and I haven't looked back since.
Tell us a little bit, Shannon, about how you go from being corporate executive to writing a book about watering yourself, because I remember being in corporate and that was never the first thing that you think about when you think about being corporate. What you think about is that.
Hello?
Night Coffee wrote a whole book about watering yourself. What was the reason for you wanting to do that?
Well, it came down to, and I lost you for a minute there. I don't know if it was on my end that you froze or you froze in general, but I'll try to answer the question here, which is the reason. What it really inspired me to write it is I had gone and got a health coaching certification because I was having all kinds of health problems for myself, and I really wanted to discover what it was. And because I was too young for all these health issues, and I really started to learn about. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and really started to learn about not just the nutrition aspect of it, but the mind, body, spirit connection, and the holistic view of how our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions affect our health and our body and the way we eat and the decisions we make. And so I was able to start to heal myself through that. And then I started working with clients once I got my certification on health coaching them, and realized it was the same thing. And 99% of who I was working with were women. And I kept seeing patterns that women feel guilty for taking me time. They feel like if there's downtime, they need to be doing something with it. And if they're not, or if they do take that time for themselves, there's a sense of guilt around it. And most of the time, they just weren't making or taking that time for themselves. And so, one particular client, she was really struggling with this. She was going through a really difficult divorce and a lot of other things. And so I brought a plant to her house one day. I was trying to figure out how can I remind her to take care of herself. So I bought this little plant. She told me she had a brown thumb and there was no way she could take care of this plant. And so I bought her something easy to take care of. I think it was a succulent or something. And I said, okay, what happens if you don't water this? Well, it's going to wilt, it's going to wither, it's going to die. Yes. And you can actually see when that's happening to that plant. And it's that reminder, oh, that plant needs some water, right? Let's put some water on it. Problem is we don't really see when that's happening to ourselves until it's too late. And so that's where the watering system came from, which was every time you water this plant, let that be a reminder to water yourself, to invest in yourself, to take time for yourself, to do something you enjoy, to read a book, to learn a new language, whatever it may be that you really want to do, to take that time for yourself so that you're watering yourself. And that's where the idea from the book came from. And then I started to think about weeds taking our nutrients and strangling our growth, and sunshine being that positivity and the good stuff, and the pests and the parasites and the seasons in life. And so I really wanted to, I knew it was helping my clients. So I really wanted to get it out into the world and help more people. Mhm.
That's wonderful. You know, we're heading into the new year. We are wanting to make, whenever we have these milestones, new year, new month, new quarter, we have an opportunity to look at the way we've been doing things before and perhaps to tweak things, look at what works, what doesn't, make things better. It's always a great opportunity to do some introspection. As we are doing that, what advice do you have for us? What are some of the do's and don'ts that you have for us as we step into leadership in our businesses, in our companies? What advice do you have for us for watering ourselves, taking care of ourselves? And why is that important for growing our businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot to unpack there. First and foremost, I can't remember the exact statistics, so don't quote me on this, but it's something like 87% or somewhere around there of New Year's resolutions fail. It may even be higher than that. And that's because people set these big, lofty goals and they get overwhelmed by trying to achieve them. So if you do have big goals, break them up into smaller, more achievable goals, and then set actionable intentions, which is the plan that you're going to follow through with to achieve each one of those smaller milestones till you get to your goal. And then make sure you're celebrating those small wins and those small successes, because a lot of times we overlook those and that leads to discouragement, which ultimately leads to failure. So as you approach the new year, if you have goals for yourself, if you have New Year's resolutions, break those down into smaller, more manageable chunks and build plans for achieving those things. And why is self-care important when it comes to achieving our goals? Well, first of all, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to get burnt out. We've all experienced that burnout at some point in time. If you haven't, congratulations, give yourself a big pat on the back because you're doing something right. But many of us do experience that burnout because we just keep going. We keep going, especially in this country. We're really driven towards success and extrinsic acknowledgments and extrinsic goals. And we forget about those intrinsic things that are internal to us, that are purposeful, that are meaningful. So making sure that you take care of yourself, make time for yourself, that's going to reduce your stress. It's going to reduce your anxiety. It's going to make you more calm and better able to handle issues when they arise or obstacles when they jump in your way. And it's also going to make you a better leader because you're going to be more approachable, and you're going to be able to be more effective, and you're going to be more understanding. You're not going to be as quick to anger and as quick to temper when it comes to being a leader. And so if you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be much happier. You're going to have a greater sense of well-being. You're going to be more equipped to follow through on your goals and lead others. And then it's also important to lead by example with those things. I will have to say, I have to admit, I had a really rough couple of years the past few years. I got diagnosed with a condition called CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, which is extremely painful. And for 8 months, I could not physically sit. It affected my mood. It affected my ability to take care of myself. My whole life was just in this spiral at all times. And it did affect my leadership capabilities. And I had a bit of a wake up call when one of my employees was like, "You've changed." And they're like, "You're not the same person." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." Despite going through all of this and despite feeling like I'm just in this constant swirl of pain and doctors and trying to keep up with running a business and doing all these other things, I need to stop and make time for myself because I forgot my own advice through all of that. Sometimes it's hard to see through the muck, but if you prioritize that, it will reset you. And I think it's important as we go into the new year to reset and make watering yourself, self-care a priority because it will make you a better, more effective leader.
So give us some practical tips. Just give us a few ideas that we can actually take and run with as we go into the new year.
Yeah, so figure out what it is that's important for you for self-care. I've been interviewing dozens of women for the revamp of this new edition of the book. And one of the things that I've learned is everybody practices self-care in different ways. For some people, it's getting up in the morning, having a coffee out on the deck, reading or journaling, or just taking in nature. For others, it's going in, getting massage or getting their nails done. For some people, it's going to the gym and exercising. For others, it's reading. Figure out whatever it is for you that brings you peace, that brings you calm, that helps you reset and let go of some of that stress and anxiety. It could be meditation, it could be exercise, it could be a lot of different things, and make time for yourself. The number one thing that I can give you advice for is schedule time in your calendar for you. Make sure to block off that time. And when you put it in there, do not cancel on yourself. It's really easy to cancel meetings, especially with yourself, because we often look at it like, "Oh, I have this other meeting that I can slot in that one time, but that's my time for self-care, but I'm going to take this other meeting." Because no, take that other meeting another time unless it is extremely urgent and has to be done right then and there. But schedule that me time, follow through with that me time. You are your most important client. You are your most important meeting. You are your most important appointment on your calendar. So that is the biggest bit of advice I can give you. A, figure out what it is that brings you happiness, brings you joy, resets you. And then B, schedule that time for yourself. And then I'll leave you with a third one. There's this practice in positive psychology called 3 good things. It's really easy for us to get caught up in all the craziness and madness of our days and our lives and the negative things that happen to us and easily forget the positive that happens. They say it takes a minimum of 3 and a recommended 5 positive thoughts and feelings just to offset 1 negative. And I could go into all the science behind that, but in lieu of time, I won't. But there's this activity called 3 good things where at the end of each day, you sit down and you write down, because it sticks in your brain more, 3 good things that happened that day, no matter how big or small, and you reflect on each of them and why those things happened, why they were positive, what made them happen. And so that way you can start to refocus your thoughts and feelings on the positive instead of always the negative. And these are going to help reset things in your life. And again, make you a better person, a happier person, be more centered, have better well-being all around, mind, body, spirit, and then in turn, again, make you a better leader.
I love this 3 good things idea. It's definitely going to be one of the things that I'm going to be adding to my things to do at the end of every day because I see the value of that. And I absolutely agree. We have the opportunity to offset the negative by introducing, they do say 5 good things to offset the negative. And it's just the way our brains are built, because we're built so that we can recognize the negative so that we don't repeat patterns. That's the whole purpose of that, because that was a survival, I suppose, mechanism that's built into us. But because of the way that our lives are now, we're not living that same lifestyle now. And so all that that does is stresses us out. It increases our cortisol and adrenaline, and that is going to cause all sorts of health issues. So I totally love that. What we're making New Year resolutions and doing a lot of those sorts of things right now. What are your thoughts when it comes to New Year resolutions?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of times New Year's resolutions fail because people set big lofty goals for the year, and then those get lost in the shuffle because they're so big they just don't know how to approach them, they don't know how to get there. So take those New Year's resolutions, break them down into smaller, more manageable chunks, and then set actionable intentions for yourself. The actionable intentions are those plans for what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis to get to each one of those milestones and ultimately get up those stairs to accomplish that bigger goal. I think New Year's resolutions can be effective if they're approached in the right way. But again, many people just set these big goals and don't really think about them and let them overwhelm them and then ultimately give up on them. So it really comes down to, I personally don't set New Year's resolutions. I personally kind of do a reset at the beginning of each year. I reflect upon the previous year and what my lessons learned were, what I thought went well in that year, what I want to do differently this year, what I want my life to look like. And some people create vision boards. I really create a vision in my head. I do visualization exercises and visualize, like, what do I want my life to look like, and try to manifest that. So you can do visualization exercises, you can journal about those things, you can write them down, you can do vision boards, but make sure you keep those New Year's resolutions or their goal or those goals front and center in front of mind, so that you're constantly seeing what they are and reminding yourself of working toward them. And just like scheduling time for self-care, schedule time to work on your goals. Like for me, I've blocked off days and times on my calendars where I won't take meetings, so I can actually schedule time to work on the things that I need to work on.
I love that. I was one of my favorite things that you talk about is the no excuses clause. Favorite, love it. So me asking you this question again was in the hopes that you would share with us what exactly is this idea of a no excuses clause.
Yeah, so we best laid plans, right? We all have. So when I talk about goals and then breaking those goals down into more manageable chunks, so smaller milestones or smaller goals, and then writing out actionable intentions or the plans that you're going to make to achieve those. So a lot of people's New Year's resolution is to lose weight, right? So we'll use that as an example. So someone may say, I want to lose 20 pounds this year. Great, that's a great goal. How are you going to do that? Well, you're not going to lose 20 pounds in a month. That's unhealthy and unsafe. So, how much are you going to lose each month? What does this look like? In the beginning, you're going to lose faster, and then you're eventually going to start losing slower. So, plan that out, right? How
Definitely.
much do you want to use each month? And then after that, you're going to lay out an intention of what you're going to do to lose that weight, whether it's healthy eating or exercise or some combination of both. So, you would lay out, for example, I'm going to go to the gym on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays before work between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. And I'm going to do this amount of cardio and this amount of whatever and blah, blah, blah. The no excuses clause is, what if something comes up on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday morning? What if you're sick? What if the kid's sick? What if you've got to run an errand? What if the car breaks down, right? There's your excuse to not go. Well, guess what? You've got Tuesday, you've got Thursday, you've got Saturday, you've got Sunday, you've got after work, you have other times a day where you can go to the gym. So your no excuses clause is an if then clause. It's, if I don't make it to the gym on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday morning before I go to work, I will go to the gym on Tuesday or Thursday morning before work to ensure I get my 3 days a weekend. That's what your no excuses clause is. It's keeping you from being able to make excuses from getting to your goals and dreams.
I absolutely love that. I love that there's something built in because life happens. Things don't always go exactly as planned, and nothing derails me faster than getting outside of my schedule. But if I have a plan for, well, if this doesn't happen, then I'm going to do this, then the likelihood of staying on track, that's going to be so much better. That's an awesome, awesome way of looking at things. Any final words, any final tips that you want to leave with us?
You can carry this over into your work as well. It doesn't just have to be about personal goals and dreams. It can be about your work goals when you're in your work and trying to accomplish things within your work. And you can also use the actionable intentions and the no excuses clause with your team and with your employees. And you can do fun activities around this where you help each other set them and then follow through with them and then have the regular check-ins. It also makes things much more measurable and sets greater expectations. It makes the workplace a much better place to be, as opposed to having kind of these vague goals or these big things for people to reach for. So being more actionable and more intentional are really great. And then I will say, with the self-care aspect, don't only invest in self-care for yourself. Your employees, your team members need self-care as well. So make sure to support them in their self-care needs and their self-care journey, because that's going to help them to be happier and healthier, less sick days, greater productivity, all of that stuff. And today, people are choosing balance over bucks. So make sure you're providing that for them.
Make sure you're providing balance over bucks. I love it. I love it. I love those little pithy sayings. They're always so, so fun for me. So, at the end of every show, I usually share with our audience a card that I've pulled. It's usually a card from one of the card decks that we have, and it gives a nice little thought for the day or thought for the week, something that we can use as a jumping off point. Well, over the holidays, when I was supposed to be self caring and focused on family, I was still thinking about us here at Ladies Power Lunch. And so I sat at my computer and I built a whole card deck just featuring quotes from all these amazing authors who have been a part of the Ladies Power Lunch anthologies and Ladies Power Lunch solo publishing books. And this morning, I actually selected, I didn't just pull at random, but selected the card that I made from a quotation from you in our best-selling book, Answer the Call. And your quote, Shannon, says, and I think you're talking about, when we're thinking about growing our businesses, your quote was, provide value and give firsthand insight into what you do and why people should hire you. Start with your who and your why. Focus on the experience, strike a balance with providing value, and then ask, and you shall receive. I thought that was a pretty outstanding quote. Any thoughts about your quote?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, people connect with people, right? A lot of times when we're trying to sell ourselves, it's what I do, all the awards I've won, how amazing I am. No, they want to know who you are, what's your why, what's your driving factor. And that's what's going to create the connection with other people, with your potential customers. And that's going to make them more likely to buy from you and also recommend you to others. And it'll also increase the longevity of the time you spend together in that relationship.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to say thank you, Shannon, for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. Thanks for being our very special guest. Can you share with people how they can connect with you? How can people reach out to you and participate in any activities or events or your products that you offer?
Yeah, you really, the best way is to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Shannon Malkin Daniels on LinkedIn. My URL is linkedin.com/in// Shannon Malkin Daniels. Pretty straightforward. Just look me up, connect with me. We can connect there, and you'll be able to learn about In Captive, the technology that I offer through there. You'll be able to learn about the Water Yourself conference in the book. You'll also be able to learn about my public speaking and communication coaching through there. So that's really the best like hub to come through, and we can take it from there.
And if anybody wants to know more about In Captive, which is the home for Ladies Power Lunch off of social media, it is growsmarternotharder.com/login. And if you've never been a part of our community, you're going to have to create a profile. So you're going to have to go in, register, create a profile, but it'll give you an opportunity to see some of the amazing work that Shannon has. Everybody, it's been such a wonderful conversation. And if you are watching with us live, you will continue to be a part of this conversation as we go forward. I just want to invite you, if you're watching on the replays, join us live next time. Come on over. Just remember, mark your calendars. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, every single Tuesday, and we're here. So join us live and let's have conversation together. In the meantime, I'll see you on the next show. Great. And
Yay.
let's transition into the next part of our show. So, Shannon, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And I'd love to have you just please introduce yourself to everybody. Tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Yes. Again, I'm Shannon Daniels. I am an author, an entrepreneur, a communication nerd. I'm the founder and CEO of Incaptive, which is an audience and engagement and conversion platform for virtual, hybrid, and in-person experiences. And I'm also a public speaking, communication, and confidence coach.
Wonderful. And Shannon, how did you end up in this kind of diverse world that you're working in? Because you're a best-selling author, you're a TED Talk speaker, you're a tech entrepreneur, you help people who have communication issues. And when I say communication issues, I mean people who want to communicate better as the face of their business. You help people who are, you teach communications, you do all of these wonderful, wonderful things. How'd you get here? What was your path?
It was a pretty windy road. I really started out in marketing. Actually, I started out at 19 years old at Merrill Lynch as a client associate. And I learned after 3 years of working in Merrill Lynch, I was not a finance person. I did not enjoy finance. And so I moved over. I took a job in marketing as a creative writer and marketing lead, and I kind of self-taught myself some graphic design and stuff, and really worked my way up the ladder that way, and spent most of my corporate career running sales and marketing teams. And just kind of the higher I climbed, the more unhappy I got, the more money I made. I felt I would be elated, and it was great having that financial security, but I was just miserable all the time, and I was unhealthy, and it was because that self-care was lacking. So I went and got a health coaching certification, quit my job, wrote the book, was doing some health coaching, and realized that even though my passion lies in helping others, that was not the path. And I really went back to my communication roots and started coaching people on communication and public speaking while I was also teaching at Iona College and then Columbia University. I'm no longer teaching right now. I'm doing more just the coaching and consulting with that. And I've been coaching and consulting for over 7 years now, doing one-on-ones as well as group workshops and stuff, and going into organizations and teaching them different things. And then really, I had no intention of getting into technology. I'm not a technologist by trade. I'm a communications person by trade. And I kept seeing the same problems arising with presentations and events. And I wanted to find a way to better connect the presenter with their audience, to make it more conversational, to make it more engaging and more measurable, and also increase the outcomes from hosting a presentation or an event. And that's really where the idea for Incaptive came from. So even though they seem very different. Public speaking, communication coaching, and Captive being this audience engagement platform. And that's all at the end of the day about audience engagement, about connecting people, about helping them be better communicators with better outcomes. So that's really kind of wound around a bit, and the book came in the midst of all of that. And the book is really a passion where I get to help people a lot.
I really, really love this book. It's your, I think, masterpiece.
Oh, thank you.
It's Water Yourself, a practical guide to weed out the bad, get more good, and live your dreams. I love it because I'm a sucker for practical examples. I love a to-do list. I love this is the way you get from point A to point B. I love practical examples. And so, your example of using something in nature that we can see, something that we can actually relate to give us an idea of whether or not we're actually doing a good job of taking care of ourselves, that seems to me so genius. Tell us a little bit about what this book is about.
Yeah, at its core, it's about making time for yourself so that you can really not get burnt out, so you can avoid that overwhelm and that stress. It's about just taking care of yourself so you can grow and thrive and flourish, right? And really, the analogy for watering yourself, as well as the whole thing with gardening, is I wanted to look at a way that people could practically grab onto ideas. There's been so many self-help books and ideas that are just big pie in the sky things that I felt like it all made sense, but it wasn't like a practical thing I could really hold on to and truly make sense of and do something with. And so I looked at it like, okay, if we're watering ourselves, that's our way of giving ourselves the water we need to grow and develop. But it goes beyond that. A plant needs sunlight, right? We need
Mhm.
sunlight. Sunlight in our case is positivity. It's good things that happen in our life. It's positive people that bring us joy in our life, right? So focusing on the sunlight in our life and how do we get more sunlight and sunshine, right? And then there's the weeds that we all have in our life. When you look at a plant or a garden, those weeds are those things that grow up and they can strangle the plant. They steal their nutrients from the soil. They steal their sunlight. They steal their water, those important things that they need to grow. And we all have weeds in our life. Those weeds can be tasks that we have to do. They could be work. They could be several things that are just strangling us. And sure, you can't remove every weed, right? And there's always going to be new ones popping up. But for the ones you can't remove, you can redirect their growth in a way that they're not strangling you and keeping you from growing and thriving. And then there's the pests and parasites, which, on a plant, eat little holes in them and can cause them to die. For us, it's the people in our lives that just sap all of our energy, that just suck us dry, that take advantage of us, that are just constantly negative. I know we all have experienced those people in our lives, right? So we have those pests and parasites. Then we have our seasons in life. We have our winters, which are our parts of our lives that aren't great. It's when we're going through something tough, like what I've been going through with my CRPS diagnosis. And it can really cause depression and anxiety. And those winters can be really hard to weather, right? But if you build up your sunshine and you get enough nutrients, and during those other seasons, you prepare for the winters because they're bound to come, you're going to be more successful at weathering those tough winter times. So your springs are like your new year, right? Your time of rebirth, regeneration, regrowth, looking for a way to sprout new things in your life, right? So we all have springs, and then our summers are we're just like growing like crazy, right? Everything's positive, everything's good, everything's happy. And your fall is neither good nor bad necessary. It's a time of dormancy and reflection and all of that stuff. So we have life seasons, and then finally we have to maintain our garden, right? You have to practice regular maintenance. You can't just weed once and call it a day. Weeds are going to come back. You can't get rid of one pest or parasite and call it a day. There's going to be more that come into your life. So that's really where the book came from. And I wanted to make, and there's workbook pages and everything. I wanted to make it really practical and something people could really grab onto. Even if you're not a gardener, it's easy. Most people understand the basics of taking care of a plant.
We kind of learned that, I think, in kindergarten, where we got that seed and then we had to bury it. That is my sole experience with gardening. Just want to say, also, I have a brown thumb, but I get the idea, and I understand the concept of what you're talking about, figuring out what's important for you as your idea of self-care. What does that look like for you? Figuring that out. We were talking earlier, and you mentioned that you've been having conversation with different women and you're realizing that everyone is different and that what is self-care for one is not going to be the same for everyone, but just making sure that you're making time for that is what's important. Explain a little bit more. Give us an example for say a client that you've worked with where that basking in the sun has been helpful for them.
Yeah, I will say there's been several, and I never like to point out specific clients for privacy reasons,
Sure.
but I'll just give you an example of there's been a few where negativity just ruled their lives. All they could focus on were all the bad things in their lives. So for one particular client, she was in the midst of transferring jobs, and it didn't matter which job she had, she was unhappy in every single job. And we couldn't figure out what it was that made her unhappy in every single job. And it came down to the fact that there were other things going on in her life that were making her unhappy. And she was reflecting that in the work that she was doing. So no matter what the job was, she was unhappy. And so we had to work on positive affirmations and do things like the 3 good things exercise. We also, with the positive affirmations, I'm trying to remember the exact number. It's something like your brain, 1,000 neurons fire when you think something, and about 10,000, I think it is, fire when you say something out loud. It's in the book, the exact statistic. I'm not remembering it off the top of my head right now. But so what that means is when you stand up and you say something out loud and mean it, then your brain will believe it more, your brain will listen more. So with her, we had her do positive affirmations, stand in front of a mirror morning, noon, and night, and
Mm.
say the positive things and affirm herself that she was good enough, that she deserved happiness, that she deserved love, that she deserved all these other things. And that started to shift the way that reflected in other areas of her life, including her work. So saying those positive affirmations out loud really, really helped. There was another client I was working with who's deathly afraid of public speaking. Actually, I've had this with several, but one recently, and to the point that she had a new job. It was her dream job. And she was telling her boss, no, I'm not going to run this panel discussion because I'm too deathly afraid and I just can't do it. I don't believe in myself. I don't believe I can do it. So we worked together over about a month period of time leading up to it, and not only worked on how she was going to run the panel, but really focused on positive affirmations, self-image, self-worth, her ability that she could do this. And that's where getting more of that sunlight, getting more of that positivity in her life made a big difference. And then likewise with the woman who really inspired the book, getting her to water herself completely changed her life, making sure that she was taking that time for herself, that she was going after her passions. Like she had this beautiful passion for photography, and she was an amazing photographer, but she didn't believe that she was good enough. So had to push her to kind of get out there, to believe that she was good enough, to invest in her photography business. And that's what she does full time now. She's a photographer and she's amazing. So getting more of that positivity, the more of that sunshine in your life, it makes such a difference. It really rewires your brain. It really rewires your thought patterns and your belief system and what you believe you can and can't do, and changes the outcomes. It has like a domino effect. It changes the outcomes of everything.
I love that. Give us some practical examples. Again, we don't need names because we just want to hear the stories, but you talk about weeding your garden. What does that really look like in real life?
Yeah. So I'll give you a very simple example. One is that cleaning is like my nemesis. Like I'm a clean person, but I mean like getting down, scrubbing toilets, scrubbing bathtubs, mopping the floors. I do daily cleaning, wiping down the counters and all of that kind of stuff, folding clothes, laundry, washing dishes. But I'm talking about like that deep cleaning type of thing. It was something that would take me hours on the weekends of precious time I could be spending taking care of myself, doing things for me, it's like going to the beach, going on a hike. If I was spending hours cleaning, I couldn't do that. So I decided to invest in having someone come in and clean and do those things. And oh my gosh, that little investment made such a difference in my life. I removed that weed of having to scrub toilets and bathtubs and mop floors and replace that time that I saved with going on a hike, spending time with my husband, playing with my dog, going to the beach, enjoying just outdoors, right? So that's an example of a weed. Or like with some people that I've worked with that are moms and they have to like take the kids to school every day or take them, shuttle them back and forth to activities like soccer and this and that and the other. Set up a carpooling system, take turns. If there's people within your neighborhood or nearby and their kids are playing these sports with your kids or going to school back and forth with your kids, set up a schedule and alternate times. And that will free up, whether you do it every other week or every other day, that's going to free up time for you. That's a weed you can pull that's going to give you time, give you back some of that sanity and let you go, I don't have to do that today, right? So those are some very real examples
Those are
of
amazing
weeds.
examples. I absolutely love those examples.
Yeah.
Then you go on to talk, Shannon, about practicing pest control. Give us some practical examples there. Like, how do we even practice pest control in our lives?
Bye, boy. Bye, Felicia. No. But in essence, yes, it's kind of like that, right? So practicing pest control is really like figuring out, do I really need this person in my life? Does this person have to be a part of my life? If yes, how can I manage the amount of time that I'm spending with them so that they're not driving me absolutely insane and that they're not draining all of my energy and they're not making me miserable? If no, how can I work on removing this person from my life? Guess what? Someone who was your friend at one point in time, you may outgrow them. People grow, they change, their personalities change, their interests in life change, their priorities change. And sometimes it's really hard to say, but we outgrow our friends. And maybe someone that was a great friend once upon a time, maybe they were your party friend and you went out all the time and had the best time together, but now you're grown up and you have a family and maybe that person's still single and just wanting to party all the time and get you into trouble. You've outgrown that friend. So, you know, maybe it's time to move on. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily cut them out of your life, but maybe you distance yourself from them a little or change the settings in which you spend time with them or the amount of time you spend with them. And then some people are just completely toxic and you gotta, that's where the bye Felicia comes in. So it's
Um,
okay to remove people from your lives.
I feel like that one can be a little challenging for us. So I would invite people to really tune into that chapter because one of the things that I can say is that removing toxic people and situations really up levels your life. You talk about the savoring of the seasons. Practically, how do we make that work? What does that look like?
Yeah. What I say is make sure to save up, like during your times where you're flourishing and thriving. That may be financially, it may be mentally and emotionally, it may be in other ways, physically. Make sure to save up those stores. Kind of like the squirrels go and they gather all the nuts before it's time to go and hibernate for the winter so that they have stores for the winter to rely on and they're not going to starve. It's a similar thing. Save up enough positivity, save up enough fun, save up enough goodwill so that when you hit those hard times, you're not immediately going to fall into complete and utter ruin and despair, right? So prepare for those, just like you're prepared. So many doomsday preppers out there, right? With just like basements full of stuff or garages full of stuff. Think of it in that way. It's storing up those mental, emotional, financial needs that you're going to have for when a hard time hits, so that when that time comes, you're ready and prepared for it. And you're still going to have to weather it, and it's still going to be difficult, but you can help to make it a little less difficult when you're going through it. And then when you are going through it, also save up those, the opposite of your pests and parasites, those people that bring you lots of sunshine, so that
Mhm.
when you need their light, you can turn to them and they're going to be there to provide you with the light. Likewise, when you're in times of abundance and have a lot of sunshine to spare, make sure you're sharing that with people when they're going through their winters.
I love that. I love that. I was having some conversation with a dear friend recently, and we were talking about some of the tough times that have come up. Everybody who's lived through the past few years knows there have been some times that have been challenging for every single one of us. And it's interesting because there have been people who've been there, who've held our hands and supported us through all of this. And it's almost as though that was an opportunity for gratitude and an opportunity for appreciation, because even though things were perhaps not the best, you had an opportunity for your faith in humanity to be restored.
Mhm.
So there's always going to be some kind of positive, in my opinion, that you can find from the times that are just not great. And we
Yep.
all have them. And this is one of the reasons why I continue to encourage everybody to be a part of our community at growsmarternotharder.com/Facebook, because we're not just there having casual conversation. We're there providing community for us all to link arms and be there for each other. When I'm having my good day, I'm there to support you. And on the day when it's not my best, you're there to support me. That's the sort of give and take that I hope that we're fostering in our community.
Yeah.
You, you
I
talk
also
about.
recommend one other thing, which is
Mhm,
keeping two journals. So for people who journal, I used to be a big journaler. I'm not so much these days, but I do believe in the power of journaling.
mhm.
I'm more of a conversationalist at this point in time. I have conversations with people and work things through that way. But keeping two journals for people that enjoy journaling. One, your weeds journal, which is all the negative and bad things, right? Just bleh, get it out of you, right? Let it be released. And then the second one being your sunshine journal, so that you can write down all the positive things. You could do your three good things activity. You could write down anything that brings you joy or happiness, or like, oh, I went and did this today. It was the most amazing experience. Or, oh, I just got back from vacation. Let me write all about it. Or, oh, I got to sit down and talk with Dr. Davia today. Oh, I loved it, right? So writing down all the good stuff, because when you're in the weeds, it's really hard to do this and find the sunshine, right? So if you're looking through one journal looking for positive notes, it's going to be hard. Whereas
Ah,
if you just are in the weeds and you need that hit of positivity to remind yourself of all the good you have in your life, open your sunshine journal. There it
ooh.
is. So easy.
Well, from the things that we've talked about today, you've talked about making sure that you know what's important, your personal self-care. You've talked about scheduling time
You still
at the
there?
end of each day. I love those. They're all amazing. And I love also this idea of having two journals. And I feel like I am going to add that to my list of things to do. The last thing that I wanted to just touch on is you talk about practicing regular maintenance. Tell
Mm-hmm.
us about that.
Yeah, so really practicing regular maintenance is what I mentioned before. You can't just pull a few weeds and then never weed your garden again, right? You can't
I
spray
can't.
for
That's
no.
why my whole gardening thing never worked out.
You can't spray for pests and expect them to never come back again, right? You have to regularly maintain these things. You have to seek out sunshine if you want positivity in your life. You have to pull weeds if you don't want to get strangled by them. You have to manage those pests and parasites if you don't want them to overwhelm you, right? That's what practicing regular maintenance is. It's just finding a way to make this a part of your daily life and your daily routine. Because if you don't, you'll feel good for a while. After you clear it all out and do it, then it's all going to come rushing back. So it may not be a fast comeback, but it will slowly creep back into your life, these things.
I hear you, Shannon. I want to invite Adam. So we are so blessed today because we've had, some amazing people join us live here on the show. And Adam is one of our Ladies Power Lunch members. And yes, Adam is not a lady, but he really truly believes in the power of us supporting each other. And so I am so happy to welcome you, Adam. Happy New Year. Can you just share with everybody who you are and what it is that you do?
So I'm Adam Latin. I'm founder of The Clearest You, and I work with empowerment, helping people um, I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names, like Shannon. I actually do a lot of the same stuff that she does, but from a slightly different angle. What I find absolutely amazing is one of my symbols is very similar to what you have in the book with the same colors, except I use a triquetra as the with a blue, purple, and red, because I find that those colors for me signify mind, body, and spirit. So I really work with helping people identify who they are and be able to better communicate, express, and engage with who they are as people more accurately, not just authentically, but with active accuracy, which sadly, people don't realize how inaccurate they are about even their own self. So a lot of we actually share somewhat of a similar backgrounds and story. So at some point, if you do want to connect, I would really like to be able to do that. But
Absolutely.
anyway, what I really love saying is I help take people from feeling helpless to victorious, and
I love
really
that.
going from that space of recognizing that we don't choose to be powerless. So therefore, we need other people to help us go from that sense of powerlessness to being powerful. We can only do it not just on our own, but we really do need that community. So
You said the word community,
right,
and
and that's
I
my
say the
biggest thing.
word collaboration. So
Right.
we're talking the same language.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely. We are all. I don't believe in just having a small, solid community or a village. I am huge on the idea of having an army of people to
Mm.
support us and help us create. And like, I love her talking about the weeds. And I believe that we can't weed our own garden by ourselves. We actually need people to actively weed in the ways that we need. They need to already be good at weeding. We can't ask people that love us to become good at weeding. And that's one of the biggest struggles, is we're often asking the wrong people. And so that's a
Yeah.
really big thing, is learning to find the army and the community that we really deserve and we really belong to. So thank you so much for your share today. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and I'd love to connect with you. I dropped in the chat my personal calendar to meet with me,
Yeah,
and we can set up some time to chat one-on-one and get to know each other better. I'm a big believer in community. That's actually what my TEDx was about. And then I was redefining how we measure success, and that it shouldn't be measured based on extrinsic factors, but intrinsic factors. and that the true measure of success should be community and how we've impacted and helped our community and the mark that we've left on the world through that. And then I'd also love to interview you for my book. I've been interviewing dozens of women, would love to have your perspective. And so I dropped the 15-minute interview, if you're interested in that, to have you chat with me about self-care.
Yeah, that's actually really great. I would love to do that. In fact, I'm looking at the calendar right now, so I think I'm gonna make sure that I set something up, because I know that once we close this out, I'm gonna lose the connection. So I thank you so much. This was actually really great. I'm
Thanks for
super
joining
excited,
us.
and I can't wait for the next piece. We're going to be doing stuff on the it's really great. Anyway, I don't know, this was really good. I needed this today.
This is
So
an
thank you so much.
outstanding book, Shannon, and I believe that it's perfect for where we are right now as we launch into 2023. Thank you so much for being our guest today. And for anybody who wants to connect with Shannon, the perfect place to do that is over on LinkedIn. Just search for Shannon Daniels, and you'll be able to connect with her easily over there. Thank you, Adam, for adding your 2 cents to our conversation today.
Yes.
Thank you, Shannon, for all your support of Ladies Power Lunch, just all of it. And everyone, I'll see you guys on the next show. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.